Welcome back to the channel. Here in the garage with my Mk6 Golf R. Obviously it's not bagged right now, it's sitting on jack stands. And if you've seen the car previously in my first video, this is new. This is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to do some universal fender flares on the Golf R, front and rear. Already did this side, so I know how to do it and explain everything to you guys. Essentially, we got some universal fender flares that we installed, chopped away at the body. We have custom hardware. They mounted up super well, and I ended up going with this kind of old school JDM look. I'd compare them to kind of fender flares you would put on a 240Z. They look super good with the body lines on the Mk6 platform, because if you've seen one, they're very round. Everything is round. There's not a lot of edges on the car. So I think these were a really, really good choice. So that is what they look like. The rear added a ton of width. I believe 3 inches in the rear and 2.5 up front. And that is to fit my custom wheels that I have ordered, which have still not arrived due to the coronavirus pandemic currently going on. Hope everybody's staying safe and staying well, staying inside, working on their POS project car. That's what I'm doing back here. So as you can see over here, not wide, sort of slightly wide. And I'm not gonna sit here and be one of those kids that calls this a wide body kit. That's bullshit. These are strictly fender flares. This is a flared Golf R. But essentially we're just widening out the fenders so we can fit bigger wheels. We got 18 by 11s in the rear, -12 offset. And up front, we're gonna have 18 by 10s plus 0 offset. So super wide wheels. You have the tires back here in the corner. The rears are gonna be 275s, the front's gonna be 265s. It'll be a super cool setup when it's all said and done. But I just got this one side done, made sure I knew what I was doing first. That's kind of how these installs go on my channel, is I make all the mistakes first and then point them out to you when I do it right the second time. But this was a pretty straightforward install. Just got the fender flares in the size that I wanted. They were about $120 for the full set. Yes, 120 bucks. Super cheap fender flares. I just thought, what the heck, why not? Like, my fenders were shit before anyway, so let's see if I have front fender. It was all warped. The other side's even worse, but this was the rear fender. It was a horrible roll and pull job. It's just what happens. People are gonna get mad at me for cutting up this clean car, but you know, at the end of the day, it's my car, so I can do what I want with it. I wanted to put super wide wheels on it and try out kind of a wider look. Eventually, I definitely want to move to like a full-on dedicated kit, wide body kit per se. But I just thought I'd kind of start off with something a little bit more mellow, just to kind of get a feel for it, not go full send out of the gate. This is one of the reasons right here why I'm doing this. So I have no remorse at all just cutting this fender away, especially since this side definitely got pinched close when I aired out for the first time. So that was fun, but you can barely see it. It's just cracked and everything. So we'll just cut all that out. No problem there. And the front, this one's probably, I don't know if you can see it. It's easier to see in person, but you can clearly see when they pulled these fenders, they didn't do the greatest job. So I have no problem cutting this car up. All right, enough of me talking about the kit. Let's just get right into it and show you guys how I do it, just in case you want to ruin your car as well and throw some super cheap fender flares on it. Also, you know, you can do what you want, and I'll just show you how to do it. So let's get right into it. So let me just go over some of the stuff you're gonna need. Lots of masking tape. I use Dremels. I use a Dremel with a metal cutting wheel to cut my fenders. Most people use angle grinders, but the Dremel is just so much more controllable, and the only downside is it takes a little bit longer to cut through, and you go through 4 or 5 cutting blades on one car for the Dremel. So I picked up this kit, came with a bunch of metal cutting blades, some plastic cutting blades. That's what we're gonna be using to cut the car. We got the Milwaukee drill bit set. I already have the drill bits out that I need to be able to put in my hardware, which we'll get right into. I bought these off Amazon. These are rubber well nuts. So these are removable. You drill a hole in your fender, you pop these in there. If you ever need to take the fender off, you just unscrew them, but these basically just pinch in between the fender or the body of the car and this, and makes a mounting place so you can just screw the body kit right into these well nuts. They're super nice. These were $25 on Amazon for this size that I got. Another thing I picked up was this edge trim. It's literally called Fender Flare Edge Trim. It's a super nice alternative to using silicone. You see it closes up the gaps really nicely, looks super sleek, and it'll be a nice contrast when the car gets re-wrapped. Getting into the rest of my hardware. So I got number 832, 3/4 inch Allen or hex head screws. Then I got these little brass kind of fancy washers. Makes a super cool look when it's on the car, because the hardware on my wheels is going to be this gold color. So I think it'll look super cool, you know, having the hardware match a little bit. Super nice. I think I ended up spending like 30 bucks total for all my hardware. We're going to use, you know, Sharpie for market stuff, box cutter, drill with the correct bit for my hardware. I don't think we use the Dremel. This I don't think we're gonna be getting into today, because I want to wait till my wheels get here to seal up my fenders. I want to make sure that I have the clearance that I need when my wheels get here before I seal that all up, because the last thing I want to do, have the wheels on, have that sealed up, and I need to cut more away, because I still have about maybe an inch more that I can cut, and I just did that just in case. So when the wheels get here, I'll double check my clearance. If it's good to go, I'll seal it up like that, and we'll be all set. But otherwise, I'm just gonna leave that for now. But if you don't know how to seal your fenders, I have another video on my channel of a Ford Focus RS widebody where we use the same Bondo glass method to seal up the fenders. So I'll leave a link at the top of the screen here that you can go check that out. Make sure you got safety stuff. We're gonna use gloves. I don't know where my glasses went. They're somewhere. But use glasses too, especially when you're using that Dremel. I always love seeing people on Instagram cutting their car and they're not wearing any protection. God damn, if a metal piece flies into your eye, you are screwed. So definitely wear protection. It's the smart thing to do. But that's just a few of the, you know, everything's kind of scrambled all over the place right now, but that's kind of the stuff we're gonna be using today. Obviously you need the fender flares, whatever, you know, whatever you're using to put on the, and then you need the car. So I'm gonna be doing it on the Mk6 Golf R. You've seen it on my channel, first video. Here's the protection, we're gonna use that. All right, let's get right into it. All right, first things first, we got the fender flare here. All we're gonna be doing is drilling the holes necessary so that these can fit through. So just measure out whatever hardware you're using and make sure you use the correct bit. And you don't want a lot of play in it. I usually test it on a piece of plastic, so I tested it on this Dremel piece, because you want it to be kind of on there securely. So this will go through, but you kind of have to turn it through. But when you mount up the fender flare, you don't want it to move around a lot, because you want it to be fixed on the car in that exact point. So that's why I'm gonna use a tight bit like that. So you kind of have to thread this in, and it'll get looser over time. Oh God. All right, I'll just stop talking. Let's get drilling. Another tip I do is I take one of the washers that I'm using to make sure it fits, and I drop it in there and mark where each of these need to go. Kind of use the washer as your guide. So then you can just go each one, make sure they're drilled right in the perfect spot. All right, got all those marked. You just take your drill. Once you've got all the holes drilled, you can throw some masking tape on the fender flare and mock it up on the car and trace out exactly where you want it, and then mark each of the holes so you know where to cut. Okay, so I got the fender mocked up exactly where I want it. I kind of mimicked how I did it on the other side. I took some measurements exactly where the other one was. The tough thing about this one is it's a universal fender flare. So there's not really like a set location where it's supposed to go. But since I have the 4-door, I kind of lined it up exactly where I wanted it so that I could clear it with the door. And then just made sure that the lip of the fender was in the exact same spot as my original fender. So you can just stick a ruler in there, make sure that's level all the way around. And then you just mount that up as best you can with the masking tape and trace out the outside, so it kind of gives you an idea of how much you can cut away without cutting too much. But the most important thing is the holes, because once we get those drilled, we will know if our fender placement is correct. And you just want to make sure that that's perfect exactly where you want it, because once you drill, that there's not really any room for error there. You want to make sure that your holes are drilled perfectly so that the fender flare goes on. So right now I'm going to drill those out and we'll put in the well nuts and then we'll mount up the fender and see how we did. Oh, and another thing is, I would lay down some masking tape over your car because it's most likely not wrapped. I just drew right onto my wrap because I'm getting the whole car redone anyway. So it's kind of like built-in masking tape. But if you saw in another video on my channel, the Focus RS, we just laid tape across the body of his car because he has that nice red paint, and then we drew on that so we weren't ruining his paint. Okay, and since we are drilling now on the body of the car and not a $120 fender flare, I'm gonna start off with pilot holes. So I'm gonna use the same bit that we used to drill into the fender flares for the hardware to make sure I don't slip or mess anything up, and then we can go back and use the bit that's correctly sized for the well nuts that we're putting in. We can start over here. Boom, so there's the pilot holes. Now you just want to measure your well nuts and drill those holes as well. Okay, I just got the larger holes for the well nuts drilled, and now we can just pop those in. They're just a good snug fit, and they just pop in like so. That's how the well nuts work. They're basically like temporary rivets. You can kind of see we got them all in there. Okay, and I'll just start up top these ones. Began on the track. Okay, and that is the flare mounted up. And you may be saying, "Oh my gosh, Thomas, what are you talking about? This is the ugliest thing ever. Look at that gap. Oh my gosh, it's so horrible. What are you thinking? That's the ugliest thing." I actually look pretty dope from far away, but that is why we use the rubber trim, because we make these cheap fender flares work by using, okay, we just take our weather trim here, wide body trim, but you get the picture. I mean, you kind of gotta like massage these and make them fit how you want to. Opens and closes with just enough room. Gonna look like. Looks just like the other side. Yeah, it turned out pretty sweet. All right. Now let's pop this back off and do the cut. Okay, so I just basically dug my screwdriver in here and kept my hand there so it wouldn't hurt this part of the car, and I just pried this piece back because all this is adhesive holding this in. Boom. Okay, now we're just gonna trim back this second layer. I'm gonna leave about a little bit of an overhang, I'd say about 1/4 inch past the top layer that I cut, so then we can make relief cuts and bend it up. Began on the track. Alright, I just finished making all the relief cuts. As you can see, I kind of tore into the liner a little bit, but it's okay, we're going to trim that back as well. We just made all these relief cuts, so let me just trim this back really quick and then we can bend those up. Okay, I just trimmed back the liner, and now I'm going to bend this up. Alright, so we got it all bent up with the relief cuts, and this is just going to be a temporary setup just until my wheels get here, and I know for sure, because I want to be able to, if I need to, cut up more into here, and then I'll get it sealed. So yeah, this one's good to go. All the holes are drilled, the cut is made, we can just put the fender back on, and start on the front. All right, and there's the rear all finished up. The only thing that's not on there are the washers, but I got the gasket trim on there, and it turned out just like the other side. Really great, really happy. Oh, it's so wide. Love it. It's gonna look super sweet with the wide wheels. Very excited. I think it turns out really good. Let's do the front now. Okay, now to do the front fender. Pretty much the same process, only a lot easier. All right, we're gonna start off with drilling the holes, just like we did with the rears. We'll just go around and mark our holes. All right, mark the holes, now we can drill. Boom, holes drilled. Let's go mock this up. Okay, I got the fender traced. I just measured the other side and made sure it is exactly where I wanted it. Again, if you're doing this for the first time and you're not measuring the other side, all you want to do is line up the edge of the fender, existing fender, with the edge of this one, because all you're doing is extending that out. You don't want it down here, because then you're going to change your fitment and it's going to look bunk. You want it up here, because all you're doing is extending that fender out. Or once it's where you want it, mark the holes, trace it out. We're going to drill the holes really quick. What I'm going to do up here is just use the fender and just lower it down a little bit to see where we want to cut. I kind of want to follow this body line here. So what we're going to do, start down here. Make sure that your spacing on each one is the same. And now we will chop. Okay, just finished the cut. Turned out really good. I got one little nick up here, no problem. When I pull the wrap off, I'll just cover that in primer. Once the wheels get here, check the clearance. I mean, I cut it pretty close on the front, so I doubt I'm gonna need to cut anymore. I don't think I want to cut anymore. But just to be safe, as soon as the wheels get here, I'm just gonna come in here and sand this and file this down, and then spray this all with primer so it seals up this raw edge and any little nicks that I got up here. As long as you don't get any nicks past this line, you're good to go. Let's mount the fender up and see how it looks. Oh, front flare done. Looks super good. Just cinch up our fitment. How close we can get just by dropping the weather strip in. But I think they turned out really good. Gonna work on the fitment a bit. Wait till the wheels get here to dial that in, but it kind of gives you a base idea. If you're wanting to do this to the Mk6 platform, it's pretty much standard, the same for most cars. You just trim back the fender. Usually the rear quarters have that double layer. But yeah, that looks pretty sweet. With both sides matching nicely. We have my sad car that hasn't been driven in a month because my wheels got delayed. But there you go. That is fender flare install on a Mk6 Golf R. As soon as my wheels get here, you guys will see how this looks. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.